Hey everyone, welcome to my pre-summer power rankings for the LCS 2021 summer split, which I will be referring to personally as Sum 21 as a nod to that great Canadian rock band, the joyful simplicity of Sum 41, a band that I liked to listen to when I was the same age as many of you out there. Uh, so, give them a listen, go back, have some nostalgia, or if you hadn't met them before, keep your expectations reasonable, but they're fun. I want to reveal my thoughts going into the LCS Summer Split on the power rankings here. I'm not going to drag it out too much. I am going to refer back a little bit to what my kind of pre-spring expectations had been, because back in December or whatever it was, I put out, here's where I think all the teams will land by the end of summer. And so we're checking in basically halfway along the way. Whether my impressions have changed, and obviously some teams have made some changes to their rosters and so on. So we'll look at that. And I'm just going to mostly hone in on the areas that there might have been some changes or there might be some surprises to what you would expect. And rather than going through, I'm not going to reveal them one by one. I'm just going to put it all out there and then we'll talk about it. And to do that, we're going to give a little bit of ambiance here, something I don't often do, but let's have a little bit of fun and epicness to it because this is just so intense. Here we go. My reveal, my summer power rankings of where I expect these teams to finish by the end of the summer split. And here they are. So, 10th, Golden Guardians. Not much to say. I'm hopeful that bringing Solo in will help them stabilize a little bit more, have a better balance between kind of youth and inexperience versus a little more experience and stability. 9th, Dignitas. We'll talk about that one a little bit more, I'm sure. 8th, Immortals. 7th, CLG. 6th, FlyQuest. 5th, Evil Geniuses. 4th, TSM, and 3rd, 100 Thieves, and we'll talk about that. Second team Liquid, first Cloud9. I think those two will stay. So those top three, if you watched Run It this week, that was one of my predictions to the summer split, is that those are the three teams that are going to go to Worlds. So this isn't really a reveal there. But, I think the changes 100 Thieves have made, obviously the coaching staff is going to shift things up a little bit. I think having a fresh voice in there will hopefully help with the synergy issues between Someday and Closer that were there. They really couldn't find a good way to play together. They had a lot of execution issues on side lane dives and things like that. And I think just a different voice, a different way of approaching things, hopefully shake things up enough for them to be able to kind of solve a lot of that. But I think Abadage is a really big story for the summer split. I think he was a pretty good mid laner in the LEC context and should be much better in the LCS context with the level of opposition that he's going to be facing. I think he's, I have a personal kind of bias in favor of mid laners who get out of lane a lot, or who at least position on the waves and use their wave priority to give the opportunity to get out of lane, even if they don't actually move. I think Abadage is better at that than some of the players in the LCS that I've criticized for this before. I don't think he's the most map active mid laner, but I think he does it well enough. I think he's got a diverse enough champion pool. So basically, I'm like cautiously optimistic about him as a player in general, and I think he will be a top 3 mid laner in the LCS. And I think that could make a big difference. And it's really going to come down to whether or not 100 Thieves click together, whether or not they can find game plans and drafts and so on that make everyone comfortable and that they can execute well. And I think there's enough there that they should be able to at least finish 3rd and go to Worlds. On the TSM front, I don't think a whole lot is changing for them. I hope for their sake that they're able to kind of identify some things in ways that they can improve on their mid-jungle synergy, get a little bit more out of Huni, draft a little more diversity for Lost, some of these things that were issues that held them back from getting into top 2 and reaching the finals. I think they're still a pretty good team, and I think they'll be at least in the running for going to Worlds. Right now, though, I favored them to end up 4th. Evil Geniuses should be the team with the highest variance on this. So, like back in December when I did my rankings prior to the year, I put this in as like a plus minus in every team, and I actually at that point I had 100 Thieves in 4th with a plus -3, so that I thought they could reasonably finish anywhere from 7th to 1st. And obviously I'm starting to edge up into the higher estimate of that. I would put EG with like a plus -3 on this. I think if everything works out like beautifully with the Danny move, they could go to Worlds. Like, I think it's possible for this team. Likely, not really. I wouldn't be too surprised to see them finish 4th and overtake TSM or another team on this list. I'd be a little bit surprised. I also wouldn't be too surprised if the experiment just kind of I mean, experiment is maybe not the best way to call it, but if things just don't really work out for them and they struggle to find their footing, and Danny has, you know, a somewhat rough rookie split, and you can see the personal improvement, but it's just not working out. I trend towards the optimistic with them, but I'm not sure they can bring it together enough to get top 3. I think 4th would be pretty impressive, but I just don't have quite enough confidence that they'll be able to overtake kind of the stability that TSM has relative to them. FlyQuest are one where, so, I mean, I want to look back at the way the year has gone for them so far. So I had FlyQuest in my pre-spring power rankings as 6th with a ±2. And I'm putting them back to 6th here. By the time I actually did a different power rankings check-in back in mid-March, mid to late March. I believe that video came out March 19th. And at that point, I had power ranked FlyQuest all the way down to 9th. But they've had the mid-season break now, and I have a lot of faith in their coaching staff, and I think they've got some players with good talent. And from what I can tell, they're bringing Dreams up and you know, keeping Dreams in the LCS starting lineup. I think all these things are really working in their favor, and I think they're going to have the right direction and trajectory. I think Licorice got a lot more flack than he deserved. I think he's still a good player, and I think he's learning how to be a leader. And all these positive impressions and vibes I get from them make me feel like they can climb up and get into that 6th spot that I had originally seen for them. So I'm still leaning optimistic for them, and I hope that comes together and works out. CLG in 7th. I actually had them 7th. Back in December with a ±3, so I thought they could be as bad as 10th, or maybe even, if everything went perfectly, climb top 4. When I did my check-in in March, I had them 7th again, and I've got them 7th now. I think, you know, getting the run they put together at the end of spring, I thought was a bit of an overachievement. I think they don't have a whole lot more room to improve on what they had shown so far, and I think they'll get overtaken a little bit. I think they're going to kind of just be there and compete. They'll be in the playoffs because it's an 18 playoffs, but I don't think they'll make noise in the playoffs. It is what it is. Immortals in 8th. This is another team where I had them 8th in December. I had them 8th in March. I have them 8th now. I had given them a ±2. I think they've got some players with skill. They've got some coaches who have an idea how they want this team to play. But, you know, I struggle to find anything to really latch onto with them and say this is how they're going to be successful. You know, I'm hopeful that by the end of the year, some of their players, you know, will have grown more and develop kind of a good trajectory for the org and some kind of internal resources to be building. You know, I'm hopeful that Revenge will continue to develop, and that Raze and so on will be able to have something to show. I'm also hopeful we'll get to see some games from Pretty, not because I don't want to see Insanity, but because I'm really excited about Pretty and how well he's been playing in Academy, and I think he's earned it. And I think if you know, if there's growth from Revenge or Insanity or these guys enough, or if Pretty comes in and that like changes the dynamic of the team in a really positive way, then maybe we'll see them climb. I think they could climb as high as 6th if everything goes really well, but I you know, at this point I have to see more. Dignitas, I think, will be a surprising one to a lot of people after they had such a breakout spring and performed a lot better than most people's expectations. I had Dignitas 9th pre-spring, and you know, then I revised them up to 6th as of kind of mid to late March, based on how they were performing at that point. But I think with the moves other teams are making, and with the you know, a little bit of reversion to the mean in a sense, I think Dignitas are going to fall off as they did kind of at the end of spring and the way they showed in playoffs. I don't think they have enough to sustain the kind of breakout that they had in spring. I am pretty high on some of their individual players. I think Soligo is quite underrated. I think he does some things really well. I think Aftermo's having a pretty decent split. I think Fakot is a good player. But just as a whole, I can't really wrap my head around Dignitas being a top 6 team. I think they're going to get outpaced and out-improved by the rest of the league. But I'd, of course, be happy to be wrong on that, so we'll have to find out. And Golden Guardians, you know, there's not a whole lot to say. I think they've made some bringing up Chime and bringing in Solo, I think this will help to stabilize their team a little bit. I think they'll win more games proportionally. I mean, obviously it's a triple round robin, so you'd hope they win more games than a double round robin, but I mean proportionally, I think they'll win more games. I think they'll look better and more competitive. But I don't think they'll climb above 9th or 8th at the best. I think the real goal would be for them to see, again, growth in their internal resources and growth in the players that they have that they're working on developing. So best of luck to them, and I'll be cheering for them, but I've got to rank them 10th. So that's my overall take. When you compare this, again, it made some references to my pre-December rankings. I think I'm feeling pretty much on target still, and maybe this is just because I'm comparing to my own takes, and my takes haven't changed that much over the course of the year, but comparing this to what I had in December, the only real difference is that I had 100 Thieves 4th and TSM 3rd, but I had Golden Guardians 10th +-2, Dignitas 9th +-2, Immortals 8th +-2, CLG 7th +-3, I had FlyQuest 6th +-2, EG 5th +-1, and I still think, maybe they can climb to 4th, or they could drop. And then I had 100 Thieves 4th +-3, and I think they're climbing towards the upside of that, especially with the roster moves. I had TSM 3rd +-2, and then TL 2nd +-1, and C9 1st +-2. So all my rankings are pretty much the same, except 100 Thieves and TSM. I've done a switch. We'll see how things change over the course of summer. We've got a lot of games ahead of us, and I think with the carryover of records from spring and with the triple round robin instead of the double, the value of each individual game is lower, which means there's a lot more opportunity to try out different roster configurations, to try out different strategies and game plans, and not be punished so harshly for it. A single loss isn't going to keep you out of playoffs to the same extent that it would have in past years. So that's going to make all of these rankings probably feel more volatile, but we'll have to check in, start of playoffs and obviously end of playoffs, and see who kind of overperforms and underperforms my expectations for them. Right now, I think I'm still feeling pretty good about what I said back in December, even though there have been some roster switch-ups and a lot more information gained since then. We will see how it all goes out and plays out. I hope that you enjoy the start of the summer split. I know I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. And thanks for watching today. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of my take. If nobody ever disagreed with what I was saying, it wouldn't be worth putting out there. So I want to hear from you, whether you like what I was saying, whether you think I got it wrong somewhere. Either way, let's have that conversation. Make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. It really does help the channel grow a lot, so I appreciate it.